trust your gut. If you have a concern, there's a real reason for that. And even though you might not be able to articulate it perfectly, that's what the professionals are there for.
The Bishop Stortford Community Podcast is all about shining a light on the businesses, community leaders and local legends that make our town a great place to live. But behind the scenes, to run the podcast, it does cost money. So we've set up a simple way for you to support the podcast through the Giving Lottery. It's just £1 per week, and every week you're in with a chance to win a prize. And a portion of that money goes directly into supporting the podcast and creating more stories and more interviews like today's. If you'd like to support what we're building here, the link's in the show notes. Thanks in advance for your support. Okay, back to the episode. Welcome to the Bishop Stortford Community Podcast, the show where we shine a light on the incredible businesses, community leaders and local legends shaping our town. I'm your host, James O'Donnell, and today we are joined by Marissa Webb. Marissa, great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Not a
I'm
problem.
a legend.
Legend. Yeah, you can say legend.
Maybe not.
That's right. Marissa, for those of us who don't know you yet, who are you and what do you do here in Bishop Stortford?
So I am a speech and language therapist. Probably some people watching this podcast will know me or know of me. I work for the Orchid Practice. It's my practice with my business partner, Amy Drew. And we actually met in Bishop Stortford about 15 years ago. Started the practice 10 years ago, and we work in local schools with children, and we do home visits, supporting children at home and nurseries. I know a lot of people in the local community, and that's kind of what kind of got me interested in watching the podcast, because I see people I recognize and I'm like, oh, I know that person. So yeah, it's a really good community, definitely.
Thank you. Well, we're scratching the surface, I think. We're not quite 100 episodes in, and it's been fascinating.
Yes.
To meet all the different people in the different communities there.
Yeah.
So help me out here. Speech and language therapist. What does that mean?
Yeah. So basically, a lot of people would think, oh, we just help people with lisps or people who stammer, but there's lots of other things. So on a day-to-day basis, myself and our other therapists, there's 3 other therapists, there's 4 of us, we will go out to do school visits and home visits, like I said, to do therapy with the likes of children from preschool all the way to late primary, early secondary. That's sort of what our kind of cohort tends to be. And we work with children with a variety of communication needs. So a lot of them have autism. We work with children with complex needs as well, which could be many different types of diagnoses, but a lot of that will come with a communication difficulty. So most children with learning difficulties of many kinds will have some difficulty with their communication. And we work with children who have speech disorder, which means that their sound system isn't developing as it typically does and needs a lot of support in order to get around so that their speech can be intelligible. We work with children with Down syndrome to support them with their understanding, learning of language, as well as speaking. So it's not just what comes out of your mouth. It's the sounds, it's how it comes out, it's the interaction, play skills. Communication is life. It is everything. It makes its way into every aspect of our lives. The only reason that we can do this podcast now is because you and I are competent communicators, and people listening to it hopefully will get something out of it because they are also able to sort of access that. So it impacts, every area of our lives. But I'm really passionate about it, as you can probably tell. But it's really important to me, and I love working with kids. And that's the kind of route that I went down when I started deciding to be a speech and language therapist. Apart from working with educators and in a collaborative way, I really enjoyed that, and I still really enjoy that. But I love being around kids. They keep you young, they're funny, absolutely hilarious, and they let me be funny. It's an excuse for me to be funny and silly and do it as a job. And it is great. It is great. There's a lot more to it than just play, but we have to make it look and feel like it's just fun, and that's what kids will buy into.
I understand. How does that journey start for a child? Because there's lots of different aspects that you've raised there about communication and speech and making yourself understood.
Mm-hmm.
Where might people kind of get picked up on that? Is that something that the school leads on, or parents lead on, and they contact you, or what's that journey?
Whilst I've been, you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not originally from here, so I'm from the US. But whilst I've been in the country, there's been a lot of changes over the last couple of decades, basically, with regard to NHS speech and language therapy services. So I worked in the NHS for about 9 years when I first moved here. And at that time, it was community based as well as schools. So we would see preschool children on the NHS. You can still get an NHS therapist to see you, and preschool age and school age, they work in different ways across different kind of areas. But in our local area, there's been a major stretch. It was kind of, caseloads were growing, waiting lists were growing over, really, really busy. And then COVID happened, and that was literally the straw that broke the camel's back. So it was hard to recover from that. It was already in dire straits before that. And that's one of the reasons why myself and my business partner ended up, we met in Bishop Stortford, working in the community and the NHS team there. We decided to set up our own private practice so that we could do more ongoing therapy, which is what we are able to do now. But I would say the first things that usually happens is that children will get a 1 year and a 2.5 year check by their health visitor. And that is usually when things are brought up. They look at all areas of development, and then parents will often say, I have concerns, or the health visitor will ask, do you have concerns? Or they might say, oh, I've noticed this. What do you think about that? And they look at all areas of development. They often do more of a triage kind of system where you kind of have to ring up and say, I have concerns. And then they say, right, we'll put you on this pathway or this pathway or this pathway. And then you'll be on a waiting list. And the waiting list is over 12 months at this point. So what's difficult in our local area, and this is why I'm so passionate about this, is because there are children in Bishop Stortford and surrounding areas who are getting up to sort of 2.5 years, and they might get their 2.5 year check with a health visitor, or they might get at their 1 year check. Their parents might say that, we're noticing that the child's not communicating. There's real difficulty, because at that age, you're not looking at loads and loads of words and saying, can I please have chocolate ice cream. You're just looking at, they can reference things and point to the cat or wave and things like that. But usually concerns are often noticed by the parents very early on. And what's unfortunate is that now they can't get a referral to the local speech therapy services until they can't even be referred until they're 2.5. And with that and a waiting list of over a year, that means that they're 3.5. And what happens at 3.5? They get in ready to go to school at 4. So this is a huge issue that is impacting our local area, and many students are rocking up at school at 4, especially the early ones where they literally just turn 4 and they have to go straight to reception. They are turning up with huge needs from a speech and language and communication aspect, as well as other areas of need, but because they're not getting that early intervention. So I think my message to any parents or educators, anybody who's works with children or observes children and has concerns, is it's important to share that, because don't just assume, if this was an issue, something would have happened by now. That's not where we're not at that place. If you have concerns, share them with somebody, talk to somebody. And there are places that you can go. There are, we get referrals through our practice from parents. So mostly it is parents that contact us. They self-fund it. Schools will also contact us and commission us to do work with specific children in their schools, or even their nurseries settings where they can see that there's a need. They've got some funding that they can use, and they put it towards that, which I think is really admirable, because it makes a huge difference early on.
Interesting. I'm just thinking about my children and how their language has developed over time. I'm just wondering, that kind of post-COVID generation, which were kind of home educated or stuck at home during that period, how their language has developed differently. So there might be more of a need for group work for that generation at different kind of levels. Like, the individualized stuff is great, but it's as you say, so difficult to get funding for and figure out whether or not that kind of group work becomes more important.
Yeah, and I think schools often will do things in small groups, and we would always recommend that. But there are, like, in schools, they either run their own sort of languagey programs. There's lots of programs out there, or we would set something up for them specifically to say, right, let's work on this with this particular cohort, for example. But you're right about the COVID generation. I think there are children who, some of it is about language, but a lot of it is really about interaction, emotional regulation, and just feeling like, how do I interact with the world around me? Because I'm kind of missed those early kind of things that we think of as nothing, but like, we went to the park, we did this, we did that. If you couldn't do those things, and maybe you didn't have any siblings either. So if you have siblings and you're stuck at home with your siblings, that has its own challenges, but you still have that interaction.
I think we could talk about this for hours.
Yes, I know. You can
But
probably see I would.
But if a parent is out there listening in and they've got concerns, or they're not sure where their child should be with their language or their communication, what's the best way for them to follow along with what you do, or maybe reach out and have a conversation?
Yeah, to be honest, so I would say the first thing that I would recommend is, like I said, share it with somebody, talk to somebody else about it, whether it's another parent, definitely health visitor if you've got a good relationship with your health visitor, or if the child's school age, the school as well. And as well as one bit of advice I would say as well as you're also comparing, you're going, oh, this is not what I'm seeing. What you have to do is you have to compare to go, okay, there might be a difference, but don't stop with that bit of my child's behind, because the next bit is the bit that you need to take action. There's something you need to do. You need to talk to somebody. So I would say there's a lot of good resources out there. There's a charity called Speech Language UK, and they are fantastic. They're currently doing a lot of work campaigning, advocating for children with communication difficulties, particularly developmental language disorder, which is often extremely overlooked, unknown. And you teachers who are listening to this, if you don't know what it is, go and look it up. There's two in every classroom of 30 children. And we all know what autism is, or we know roughly of it. Everybody has heard of it. Not a lot of people have heard of developmental language disorder, which means that these are children who are struggling with their communication, their language, not necessarily other areas, but they often fly under the radar. So, I would say also the next bit of advice I would say is trust your gut. If you have a concern, there's a real reason for that. And even though you might not be able to articulate it perfectly, that's what the professionals are there for, to help you do that. So if you can get yourself in front of a speech and language therapist, that is first step. But that, like I was saying about the Speech Language UK charity, they've got loads of information on the website. They've got a progress checker. You can sort of look at ages and stages and go, oh, is this appropriate? Is this not? There's an advice line. I'm not even sure I don't know if it's phone or if you kind of like write in a comment or whatever, they get back to you, but you can contact them that way. Obviously, we are around. We're the Orchid Practice. You will find us around. Follow our website and our social media. We tend to post information that is relevant to children's communication about what's going on currently. We post tips. We post, just stories about what our therapists get up to. But I would say it's really important to talk to somebody about it, and don't just worry by yourself, because there's loads of people out there. We're all dying to help you. We just don't know who you are. But if you've got concerns.
What's your URL?
So we are www.theorchidpractice.co.uk. And for those of you who also are on Bishop Stortford mummies, you can ask the mummies what they think of us, and hopefully everybody will say nice things. But we know lots of people. And we're on Instagram as well, so you can follow us on there. And I would say, you need to talk to somebody who cares about communication. So whoever that person is, speak to that person, get some help. Don't do it alone.
We will link to that in the show notes so that people can reach out and have that conversation with you and hopefully help them on their journey. That's been fantastic. Thanks for sharing all of your wisdom there. Are you ready for some Stortford Spotlight questions?
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. These are 3 super fast questions that we ask every guest that come on the Bishop Stortford Community Podcast. First question. If you could put one sentence on a billboard in Jackson Square, what would it say, and who needs to hear it the most?
So tricky. So I came up with 2 because, of course, I can't just do one. So my first one is everyone deserves a voice. And that is, I'm not wearing my lanyard at the moment, but we've got a little enamel pin on our lanyards. And I think that shows my passion for communication and how we all need to advocate for each other. But that's how helpful is that when you're like, well, I know that. So my second billboard message right under that is never give up. Because actually what I find working with children is that it's all about thinking, okay, that didn't work. What can we do next? If you don't give up, you never lose. But you do if you just say, oh, that's it now. So I think that everybody needs to hear that message, even if it's not about communication, but it comes from my experience of, how I work. But yeah, never give up.
Never give up is very good advice, because if you keep trying, sometimes they kind of respond to it in different ways and on different days.
Yes, and the kids teach us, so we got to respond to them. They give us great ideas.
Yeah. I'm learning here.
I'm so glad.
I'm good. Question 2. Where do you go in Stortford that you secretly hope never gets too popular?
Well, do you know what? I was wondering about this one. It's called Coffee House. What I really like about them is they have vegan milkshakes. My son is lactose intolerant, my oldest. and they have vegan milkshakes, and they are fantastic. You would not know they're not milk. So I really like that. And it's really nice inside, and they let me stay and just read and work on my laptop, and they don't kick me out. So they're really nice.
So the vegan
milkshakes.
milkshakes
Oh my goodness.
worth their weight.
So
Okay.
good.
That's fantastic. First shout out for Coffee House. We will tag them so that more people can check them out.
Yay!
And you can go in there and you can say, I gave you guys a shout out. That'd be good. It's all about shining a light on little independent businesses.
That's right. That's right. I'm going to go for, I'm now in the mood for a vegan milkshake.
Perfect. Okay. Question 3. Who's doing something special in town that more people need to know about?
Right. Okay. I know this one. This was an easy choice. The Little Arts Workshop. Now, I think you might have had them. Jess is fantastic. But what I love is that they are incredibly inclusive. They want to make sure that they have something for everybody. They're not trying to be everything for everybody, but they want to include everybody. And they have awesome workshops, and the staff are really friendly. And every time I've been in there, it's been great. And we always choose to go for, like, my kids want to go, work activities, just like mum's night out, kind of just do some pottery, paint something and enjoy something. So yeah, I definitely shout out to them for their awesome creativity and inclusivity.
Yeah, very inclusive, a very safe space for people to go to and, play around with some art, experiment, make things, create. And they're doing some really interesting collaborations at the moment with other independent businesses in Bishop Stortford, which is, I think, what more businesses need to do is collaborate with each other, because together we're all greater than the sum of our parts. And I think they're, Jess is doing some really interesting things with that. Again, last time, what's your URL? So if people are listening in, they can reach out and have a conversation.
Yep, we're the Orchid Practice, orchid like the flower, not orchard. You'll still probably find us, but it's www.theorchidpractice.co.
Fantastic. We'll link to that and your socials so that people can reach out and have a conversation with you. Marissa, thank you so much. That's a wrap. Thanks for joining us today on the Bishop Stortford Community Podcast. Been great having you on. If you've enjoyed this episode, the best way you can support us, the show, is to hit follow, leave a quick review on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify, wherever you're listening to this, and then share it on your socials, or maybe share it with someone in town who's not on social media, but you think might want to hear Marissa's message. And if you've got a local legend, someone like Jess at the local Little Arts Workshop, that you think we should feature on the podcast, drop their name in the comments below and I can reach out to them and invite them on the show. Again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, James.
Marissa, have a great day. Thank you.
Bye.